In a single morning, 70 brothers are executed on one stone. It is a calculated political purge recorded in Judges chapter 9. To understand how the nation reached this point of domestic bloodshed, we have to look backward. The victim's father was Gideon, a hero who famously refused the crown, insisting that God was the only true king Israel needed. Yet later in life, Gideon made quiet, lethal compromises. He took multiple wives, fracturing his household. He also forged a golden object called an ephod. What started as a memorial devolved into an object of widespread idol worship. Gideon's subtle idolatry hollowed out Israel's spiritual foundation. Without a firm reliance on divine leadership, the surrounding culture looked highly appealing. The people started craving a human ruler to function like the neighboring nations. Into that vacuum stepped Abimelech. He was Gideon's illegitimate son, born to a concubine from the city of Shechem. His very name translates to, "My father is king," a title that explicitly challenged Gideon's public stance and exposed a deep, toxic ambition simmering beneath the surface. Abimelech moved aggressively to seize control. He traveled to Shechem, manipulated the local leaders using their shared blood ties, and secured funding taken directly from the temple of Baal. With that temple silver, he hired a band of mercenaries to carry out the purge of his own family. Gideon's public victories were erased by his private failures. A respected leader's small, tolerated sins built the scaffolding his son used to collapse the community a generation later. Abimelech's purge is nearly absolute. He clears all political opposition and seizes power, but he makes one critical error. The youngest brother, Jotham, escapes the massacre. Jotham climbs to the top of Mount Gerizim, a vantage point directly overlooking the city of Shechem. From there, he shouts down a prophetic warning to the people who funded his family's murder. He delivers what is known as the fable of the trees. The trees of the forest are looking for a king. They approach the olive tree, the fig tree, and the vine. All three reject the offer of supreme power. They refuse to abandon their work of producing oil, fruit, and wine for the sake of ruling over others. Desperate, the trees finally ask the bramble bush. The bramble, a useless, thorny weed that produces nothing, eagerly accepts the crown. It immediately demands total submission, threatening to burn down the majestic cedars of Lebanon if they disobey. Jotham doesn't leave the metaphor up to interpretation. Abimelech is the bramble. He has no virtue and produces no value for the people, yet he is violently desperate to control them. Good leadership finds its core purpose in serving others and producing fruit. Bramble leaders lack that ability. To maintain their grip on a position they haven't earned, they must constantly threaten to burn their own community to the ground. The consequences of choosing the bramble don't happen overnight. 3 years pass. God often allows sin to fully mature, forcing the people to taste the bitter fruit of their own choices. The alliance between Abimelech and his financial backers finally fractures. An evil spirit of division rises between them, sparking a civil war in the very streets that brought Abimelech to power. The fighting reaches a climax at the town of Thebez. Abimelech pushes the defending forces back into a stone defensive tower in the city center. True to Jotham's prophecy, the bramble prepares to set the structure on fire, attempting to burn civilians alive. But he gets too close. An unnamed woman, trapped at the top of the tower, heaves an upper millstone over the edge. It plummets directly onto Abimelech, crushing his skull. Dying on the ground, Abimelech uses his final breath to issue an order. He commands his armor-bearer to draw a sword and execute him, terrified that history will remember him as a king defeated by a woman. He dies exactly as he ruled, blinded by his own pride and obsessed with an image he never earned. When the dust settles, the city of Shechem lies in ruins, and Abimelech is dead. Jotham's warning on Mount Gerizim played out with precision. The bramble and the trees destroyed each other. This flowchart maps the progression from spiritual compromise and unchecked ambition to an inevitable mutual destruction. Power built on idolatry and violence is destined to collapse in on itself. Lasting peace and stability manifest when a community acknowledges God as the ultimate king and submits to his rule, rather than reaching for total control. This leaves us with an uncomfortable question to ask ourselves. In your own life, your career, or your family, are you focused on producing fruit where you were planted, Or are you constantly scheming for more control? It also gives us a standard for vetting those who lead us. We should be handing authority to people who revere God and deeply hate corruption. When we give power to charisma or wealth, we shouldn't be surprised when the bramble threatens the forest. And it requires us to audit our personal margins. Gideon thought a little idol worship wouldn't hurt. We have to examine our own small moral compromises today, so they don't calcify into the idolatry that destroys us tomorrow. You cannot escape the harvest of what you plant. The question is simply which path you will cultivate, the destructive ambition of the bramble or the quiet, faithful service of the olive tree.